All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating and honestly a little unnerving. It's a concept called narrative shielding. It's all about how some ideas seem to become completely bulletproof, and we're going to break down exactly how that works. You've probably seen this happen before, right? There's a story or an argument that just refuses to die, no matter how many facts you throw at it. It's almost like it's coated in some kind of invisible Teflon. So that gets us to the big question for today. How on earth do some of these narratives manage to survive, even when they've been totally proven wrong? Well, it turns out the answer isn't just about people being stubborn. The research we're looking at today points to a really specific set of tactics known as, you guessed it, narrative shielding. The key thing to know is that it's a deliberate strategy. And trust me, once you learn to spot it, you are going to start seeing it pop up everywhere.
So let's really get into what narrative shielding is. The best way to picture it is like someone's building an intellectual fortress. See, the goal isn't to build a stronger argument. It's to build a defense so tough that the core idea can't even be attacked in the first place.
At its heart, this is all about playing defense. It's a whole strategy designed to protect a core idea from any kind of factual pushback or critical challenge. This means the main objective isn't to actually win a debate with evidence. Nope. It's to rig the game so that a fair debate can't even happen. So how do you even build a fortress like this? Well, the first layer of defense is what we can call the rhetorical fortress, and it's built entirely out of words. We're talking about clever and often pretty slippery arguments that are designed to deflect any criticism before it even has a chance to land. Okay, one of the key tools in this rhetorical arsenal is a really interesting tactic called the Motte and Bailey. Now, that name comes from an old-school medieval castle design, and it's actually a brilliant analogy for how someone can strategically retreat in an argument. When they get challenged on a really controversial point, they just jump over to a much safer, more reasonable one. So here's exactly how that castle analogy plays out in a debate. The Bailey, that's your bold, controversial, maybe even extreme claim. It's the idea you actually want to push. But the moment someone calls you out on it, you immediately retreat to the Motte. The Motte is your safe, fortified, super reasonable position that, basically nobody could disagree with. Then, once you've defended that safe spot and the heat is off, you sneak right back out to the Bailey. It's a classic bait and switch, but for arguments. But narrative shielding isn't just about playing with words. When that rhetorical fortress isn't enough, things can escalate to a much more aggressive strategy. This is where the suppression playbook comes into play, and its goal is really, really simple. Just silence the opposition.
And the tools in this playbook, especially today, are incredibly powerful. The analysis we're drawing from points to tactics like creating blacklists and watch lists to intimidate critics, using AI-generated forgeries or deepfakes to spread misinformation, and unleashing armies of AI-powered bots for mass harassment. It also includes organized campaigns to mass report accounts to try and get them deplatformed and ultimately silenced. Now, to give you a real-world example, the source material we're looking at points to watch lists of academics and journalists allegedly created by organizations like Turning Point USA. According to that source, these lists can kick off what it describes as vicious campaigns of online harassment that basically function as outsourced intimidation. The idea behind a tactic like this is to make the personal cost of challenging the narrative just too high for anyone to bother.
And the scale of these kinds of attacks can be just staggering. We're not talking about a handful of angry comments here. Using AI-powered bots, it's possible to flood a single person's social media with thousands of harassing messages. The goal is pure information overload, to just overwhelm, demoralize, and finally silence somebody through sheer automated volume. So, you combine that rhetorical fortress with this really aggressive suppression playbook. What's the end game here? Well, it all leads to one ultimate goal: total insulation. The aim is to create a completely closed loop of information. And this, right here, is the final objective. By dodging debate with clever rhetoric and by silencing critics with suppression, a narrative can be completely cut off from reality. It gets to live in its own little echo chamber, surviving not because it's true, but because there's simply no one left around to effectively challenge it. So, we've unpacked the whole strategy, from the rhetorical retreat of the Motte and Bailey all the way to the aggressive suppression playbook. You now have the tools to spot the shield for yourself. So I guess the question to leave you with is this: now that you know what to look for, what are you going to see differently the next time you're scrolling your feed or watching the news?